Did you know that when Wardlow wrestled MJF at AEW Double or Nothing 2022, he did so technically half blind? This is one of the things, along with 7 others, that we learned while reading this. AEW's brand new book, This Book Is All Elite, which is out on November 4th. It's written by Keith Elliot, Greenberg and AEW and it's available for pre-order now. Full disclosure, we were provided with a free copy of the book for the purpose of this pseudo-review video. I'm going to get into some of my thoughts in general on the book later in the video, but right now we're going to start this one off with, yes, Wardlow being half blind in 2022. And why was Wardlow half blind on this show, you ask? How did this possibly happen? Well, according to the man himself, during the match, one of my contacts dried out. I'm blind without my contacts. Fortunately, I can literally powerbomb somebody with my eyes closed. And that's what it was like. I couldn't see the fan reactions, but I could hear them. So that's pretty useful that he can do that with minimal vision because the match was basically 10 power bombs, wasn't it? It was the big match where Wardlow in kayfabe won his freedom contractually from MJF. And it felt like a big breakout moment for him at the time, certainly a very important match. Really interesting to learn that on his way to the ring or just before he was stepping out, contact lens started acting up. I mean, the man was in handcuffs. He couldn't do anything about that. He just had to live with it. That's the kind of small, everyday thing that can go wrong for anyone at any point in life. And for Wardlow, it unfortunately happened at a very pivotal moment. Nonetheless, he hit the power bombs exquisitely, and I'm sure he's very happy with his work that night. Number 7 is the specific moment that Tony Khan knew he wanted to launch AEW. So this book is extremely brisk. It's very fast-paced. I think if you're a reader of any level, really, you could probably blast through it in a couple of hours, which is what I've done over the past couple of days. And it starts off with Tony Khan's roots as a wrestling fan. It goes through his decision to launch AEW and the pivotal moment that kind of led to him going, you know what? This is viable. We can do this. It was the escalation of TV rights fees, the bubble, the extortionate, that's not a word, but you know what I'm trying to say. The extortion, words are failing me right now, but it was when Tony realized that he could be paid a lot of money to run a TV show, basically. Here's what he had to say about the whole thing. The business model for pro wrestling had really changed when TV rights fees increased. You could sell a show for tens of millions of dollars, sign a roster of wrestlers, and air 52 weeks a year. There was a new opportunity to launch a promotion profitably and internationally that had not existed until then. So the rights explosion continues today. I mean, AEW is currently paid around $185 million a year by Warner Bros. Discovery to air. WWE earns billions from their various partnerships. It has gone through the roof in recent years, and it has made things a lot more viable than they would have been in the past. This was key. If AEW had launched like 10 years prior or whatever, without that financial security, it may never have gotten off the ground. Now, obviously, there are other factors that contributed to the launch of the promotion, and they talk about it in the book. You know, things like the Elite suddenly being available, Cody Rhodes, obviously, guys like Chris Jericho and so forth. But if it wasn't for the TV rights fees explosion, Tony Khan wouldn't have had a viable business. So there you go. Number 6, how Sting perked Darby Allin up. So the book goes as far as Sting's retirement match, basically, in early 2024. That's chronologically where we kind of draw the line and, hey, leave things open for another one of these bad boys in 5 or 6 years. One of the things that Darby Allin speaks about is being a little bit nervous, perhaps, before the match. He's backstage, he's brooding. Sting comes up to him and goes, hey, man, what's wrong with you? What's up? You feeling down or anything like that? Darby explained to him, well, it's your retirement match and we only get one chance to do this, so we've really got to kill it. Sting's reply was that, hey, let's take the chains off. And apparently, according to Darby, at that moment, he realized that, we're going to go all out here. We're going to go crazy. Of course, he ended up going through a pane of glass in this match. Darby also speaks about how there was a big prayer huddle, right, involving Sting, very religious man, his family, his sons were, of course, on the show, the Young Bucks, and Darby, and how Sting knew in that moment that they were going to have a killer match that was going to knock all expectations out the window. I think Darby calls it the best retirement match of all time in the book. It is certainly right up there. Sting gets really good treatment throughout the book. Obviously, everyone loves Sting. If you don't like Sting, I probably don't trust you very much as a human being. But this is just a nice, touching moment to learn of on one of the most important nights of the Icon's career. Number 5, the TV network didn't like the scissoring. Scissoring obviously is a huge part of the Acclaim's act. Anthony Bowens and Max Caster, you know, a huge thing about them getting over with daddy ass Billy Gunn was the whole scissoring deal. Now, obviously, this comes with some sexual connotations that AEW's television partners, Warner Bros. Discovery, were more than aware of. According to Max Caster in the book, actually, the network didn't like it at first. They had a bit of a problem with the scissoring going on their network because of those connotations. But apparently Tony Khan put his foot down, he stomped the ground, and he said, "Make the t-shirt." They did, and it became one of the highest selling merch items in AEW. We've all seen the foam fingers at the shows and the shirts and everything else, and now they're back together on AEW television as well. Interesting to learn that the network didn't like this. I'm not surprised that they didn't, to be fair, but ultimately, it's one of these, it's relatively harmless, right? I don't think the youth are being corrupted by scissor me daddy ass. As weird as that sounds, you know, you write that phrase down, it doesn't make any sense, but it's one of those things where if you're an AEW fan, you know exactly what it means. The scissoring gimmick was pivotal to getting the Acclaimed over. Would they have been as profitable? That's not the word I'm looking for. As popular as they eventually became without it? Maybe, but it sure as hell would have been a lot harder for them. So good on Tony Khan for putting the foot down, and yeah. Number 4, a big name wasn't sure at first. As the book goes through discussing a bunch of the people who were picked up by AEW early on, and like after All In, several people were told, without being explicitly told a wrestling promotion was coming, they were told by like Matt Jackson, "Hey, you keep your dates open, Chief. You know, don't sign anywhere. Keep available. Something's happening." There was a lot of excitement, a lot of people looking forward to it, a lot of wrestlers getting on TV for the first time, having the biggest opportunity of their careers after decades and decades in the industry. Evil Uno is one such person who's documented here. But one person wasn't sure about all this. That person was Christopher Daniels. Now, he had been a veteran in the game for like 20, 30 years at this point, right? He'd seen it all, and he understood wrestling's roots as a carny operation. Here's what he had to say. "My attitude was, I'll believe it when I see it. We're all skeptical. We've all had the experience where somebody wanted to start something new. The intentions were good, the motivation was there, and it fell through anyway." So Christopher Daniels, based on his experience, kept this whole AEW thing at arm's length because to him, Tony Khan could have just been another money mark, if you use that phrase, who had no idea what he was doing and wasn't going to get it off the ground. Daniels later explains that a further conversation he had with Tony changed his mind and convinced him that this was going to be something worth investing in. And obviously, we're talking about it 6 years later. It was correct. Daniels was it still is a very important figure in AEW. He was obviously a key member of SCU, which were very heavily pushed and promoted at early on in AEW. SCU were the first tag team champions, of course, Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian. And Daniels was AEW's head of talent relations, leading a few years ago to the infamous backstage situation where there were reports that CM Punk had tried to kick him off Collision before when he returned. It's like, how'd you kick the head of talent relations? That's a job for talent relations. It was a whole mess. One thing the book doesn't go into, obviously, right, is the big controversies and the CM Punk issues and the Jack Perry issues. We'll just talk about that a little bit right now because it seems like a natural place to do it. There's none of that here because this is an official product, right? This is the equivalent of a WWE documentary in book form. It's not quite as... It doesn't tell as many lies as that, obviously, right? We all know about the Ruthless Aggression documentary in particular. But in regards as effectively, it serves as a positive recollection of all these things that have happened in AEW's past. So there's nothing about brawl out or backstage fights or anything like that. None of that's in here. This is more focused on a positive ride, a positive journey. So if that sounds up your street and you want to live the good times, this is definitely the book for you. Just beware that it's not going to go into some of those spicier moments from AEW history because, I mean, look, guys, it's right here on the front page. It's by Keith Elliot, Greenberg, and AEW. It's an official product, right? They're not gonna do that kind of thing. Just keep that in mind. Number 3, the original Stadium Stampede was delayed by a tropical storm. There's a big paragraph, big section, big couple of pages on the original Stadium Stampede match in 2020. And the whole attitude within AEW have been, hey, we've got this football stadium, we might as well use it for something cool. It's not being used for the NFL, we might as well have a wrestling match in it. And the whole construction of the match, how they were walking through the building and finding specific places they wanted to do spots from, like Nick Jackson said, hey, look at that football thing, I'm going to flip off of that. Matt Jackson's like, Chief, you just cracked your rib, you can't do that. Nick Jackson made all Barry from EastEnders, like, I'm going to do it anyway. But an interesting nugget from this bit of info is that initially when they were filming this thing, they were there until 5:30 in the morning, filming this cinematic match. As Jericho recalls, the sun was coming up when they wrapped it up. And part of that is because they were delayed by weather. A tropical storm had the lack of decency to occur in the middle of shooting, so they all had to stop and presumably wait for things to dry up before they could resume, causing a big delay. Now look, it's Florida. These things dry up pretty quickly, right? They can happen in a flash, be over, and it's dry half an hour later. There's no word on exactly how long they were delayed for, but you can imagine it was sizable. If you are going to flip off of a wobbly football goal, yeah, you probably want that to be dry. You don't want it to be wet and slippy. So the Stadium Stampede's legacy is really interesting. One of the more enjoyable early cinematic matches for sure. I thought it was a blast personally. I mean, it was the most fun I had with wrestling in the whole pandemic era where there were no crowds and everything. And the match's legacy continues today. Initial one, though, almost got rained off. Crazy. Number 2 is how the pandemic unfolded. Now, obviously, we all know that in early 2020, the world shut down. Wrestling kept going with empty arenas. AEW's version of that was at first QT Marshall's gym in Georgia, where it was very, very sparse. There was nobody around. They later went to Daly's place. They had people like the Guns at ringside making lots of noise wherever they could. All of that stuff is very well documented. And actually, if somebody wanted to, they could probably write about 500 pages on the pandemic era of wrestling alone. There's a lot to cover there. But something we've never heard is how this specifically unfolded in AEW. The moment they all realized, crap, something's going wrong here. It was during the 11th of March, 2020 episode of Dynamite when Evil Uno had the following I've jumped ahead. When Christopher Daniels had the following realization. I remember a lot of people in the locker room saying things like, I've got a cold, I've got the flu today, I'm not feeling so good. There was a lot of that going on, but I didn't get it. Then Evil Uno added, I remember the show went on as if it was nothing, and then, halfway through, a ton of important people started looking worried and going into meetings. I didn't understand what was happening at all. So this sense of confusion just kind of creeping in backstage as the world is kind of coming to terms with this catastrophe that is unfolding. Evil Uno even says, I thought somebody big was showing up, man, like a big debut or something like that. It turned out to be a debut of a global pandemic which had catastrophic impacts around the world. Really interesting to learn about this backstage situation right there. I mean, honestly, I wish there was kind of cameras there to capture it, honestly, or even a little bit more detail on these things in general. But yeah, really interesting to learn, and thank goodness all of that is behind us now, because it really sucked. And at number 1, the last minute reshuffle to the original Casino Battle Royale. So the original OG Casino Battle Royale was won by Hangman Page. He earned his right to challenge for the AEW World Championship. As a result of that, he ended up facing Chris Jericho and losing. But if you recall the original setup of that match, there were cards, groups of wrestlers came out depending on the card they drew in batches, and then there was one joker at the end. Well, the original Casino Battle Royale was supposed to feature one Brian Cage. He eventually signed for AEW in the future, but at the time, he was TNA World Champion. Problem was, TNA, they didn't want their world champion being eliminated from a match. They didn't want him getting pinned or thrown out or whatever. He was their world champion. It's an understandable point of view for them to take. The problem is, the AEW didn't learn about this. TNA did not realize this and raise this concern until just as the match was beginning. This meant that live, on the fly, on basically their first show, AEW had to completely change one of their big matches. This meant that Orange Cassidy, who was originally supposed to have a much smaller role in the match, became an official participant. He entered the match, and they all had to adjust on the fly. Excalibur says he was kind of making his way to the ring and taking his seat at the announce booth when he learned that the whole thing had changed. One of the defining characteristics of AEW has been that ability to adjust on the fly, and here it is written, documented in this book, is All Elite. It's out on the 4th of November. Who should pick it up? I think if you're an AEW hardcore fan and you would just love to have this on your coffee table or your bookshelf, definitely grab it, get a hold of it. I mean, as well as the editorial side, I mean, some of these images are just absolutely gorgeous. The photographers of AEW do a tremendous job, and this is a very well designed and presented book. So shout outs to them, Lee, Speedy Lee, Michael Watson, Brainbuster, the whole team do a great job, and it's showcased really well in here. If you're looking for a deeper dive, if you're looking for like a super detailed analysis of this company from start to finish, it's maybe not the book for you. It doesn't really have that in it, but it's not going for that. It's going for a very high level overview. It's going for a summary in positive terms of this promotion coming to life and prospering, going all the way through to the first Wembley show and Sting's retirement. If that sounds great to you, pick it up, pre-order it right now. They're available. It's coming in just a few weeks. But thank you for joining me today. Here's another video about AEW. I'll see you later.